John Wick officially jumps the shark. Why does this have a good rating? It is terrible.
I mean, I wish there'd been a shark.
Yeah, that would have been great.
It's nothing but over-stylized, overdone action sequences and comical characters.
Is this their first John Wick?
Kind of the formula, right? Yeah.
I love the cinema, so that should be a warning to anyone considering watching this. Just don't.
The cinema.
The cinema. It's not real cinema.
Oh my gosh.
That was a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello there, and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
I'm thinking I'm back.
And Steven.
What? Did I? No, stop. What? Why?
Yeah.
You just used up like half of John Wick's line or Keanu Reeves' lines for the movie.
So
you did.
He only spoke 380 words in this movie, and I'm only going to speak 380 in the podcast, and we just ran through like 26 guys.
That is one of the lowest in movie history.
Yeah.
For a long movie too, almost a 3-hour movie.
Yes.
I can't say much more. Keep going.
So if you haven't figured it out, this week we are discussing the 4th film in the John Wick franchise, unironically named John Wick Chapter 4, otherwise known as JW4, or just John Wick the 4th.
Don't. No,
to
stop.
the cool kids.
Stop.
J to the 4th power.
Oh, get me out.
Do you just make J's with your hands and then turn it into a
No,
W?
gosh.
Yeah.
Let me out. I want off.
So, we're talking about John Wick 4. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about some other actors that are in this film.
There's a lot of people in this movie.
There is a lot of people in this movie. It can be Keanu Reeves if we really want to pick it. But, so we're going to pick other things that
I
some
didn't
of these...
think about using Keanu Reeves.
Oh, my God.
It's right there.
He's the main actor.
I could have just dropped Bill and Ted on this. Oh.
Yeah, easy.
But so we're going to talk about some other films that some of these actors have been in.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of a pretty large cast.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, like all the Wick films have had a lot of people. Like,
it's not really a
Dafoe's
who's
been in
who of Hollywood, but there's definitely a lot of big names in here.
Yeah.
So I'm curious at who you guys picked.
Okay, who wants to go first, Steven or me?
Not me.
I'll go. Why not?
Go for it.
Get this out of the way.
Lead off.
I forgot Keanu Reeves was in this film because he didn't talk enough. So I went with Donnie Yen.
Okay.
And I went for the most obvious, the most slam dunkable choice.
Ip Man?
No.
Rogue One.
Yes.
Aha.
We're going to get the Star Wars reference out early.
Get it out
Get
early.
it over with. So Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Which
What does he
is
say
its
now? I'm one with the
title.
Force.
The Force
is with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this, he plays another blind character.
He does.
Who does things seemingly magically. We'll get into that later, let me tell you. But he is honestly a great character in this movie, in Rogue One. It's probably, actually, no, I'm not going to qualify. I'm going to go right on the limb. Mm-hmm. It's the best material Star Wars has released since Disney took over.
Ooh, man, see, that's bold words with Andor in the field.
It is bold, but this is what spawned Andor. Like, if this doesn't happen, Andor doesn't exist in the Star Wars universe.
It's definitely the best movie they've put out.
Yes,
that's very. That's
I can
see,
agree
that was
there.
a safe statement. I didn't want to place. I wanted to get on the limb. I wanted to make Andrew mad.
And just for the
make people at home mad,
make them uncomfortable, squirm in your seats as I say this.
For the absolute shameless shill, you can go listen to a bonus episode where we basically rank all of the current Star Wars films in existence, and Rogue One got pretty high on that list.
It did,
sure did,
for only $1.
Yeah, check us out on Patreon.
$1 a month.
All right, continue.
Oh, we got that out of the way early too. I mean, honestly, it's a great film. I think it's a real standout even within the Star Wars universe as a whole.
Yeah.
Just because of how different it can feel from a lot of prior Star Wars and future Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I think he does a great job in it. He's a great character in that he kind of really balances some of the. We don't really get like a true Jedi in that film.
We don't,
but he is kind of the next closest thing.
So he actually, whenever they were writing his character and everything like that, he actually wanted changes for him to be blind and a couple other things because he wanted it to be less of an Asian stereotype and more. Basically giving his character more agency and more role in the film, which actually I think it made it a lot better.
Oh, no, I think it improved it wholesale. I was going to go into that as well, but because that's going to come up too with John Wick. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a great addition to the film. It's also just a great film. Is it super zany, high paced? No, it's going to be pretty slow and deliberate for most of it, but then it pops off with the best space battle
that we've had.
Maybe
probably.
in Star Wars?
I don't know.
It's close.
Return of the Jedi.
Are you going out on a limb again?
I like these limbs. I'm hanging out on some branches today, all right?
I don't know. Return of the Jedi has probably one of the best space battles.
It probably does,
Yeah.
yeah. But this is close.
It is close.
up
Yes.
I do like too that his character is like very different yet similar to a Jedi in that film, and it kind of like almost serves the same role, but in a different capacity.
It does,
and it builds out the lore a little bit more. That like I really appreciated that. When
It gives Force users a different personality. Most of them, like you have kind of just like the wise mentor is most Force users in your mainstream films, right?
Yeah.
Whereas he is much more of a character you can, he tells jokes. He kind of has that wry sense of humor. He's doesn't take himself super seriously. And I think that works really well, again, because of the dark, kind of serious backdrop we have throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And it lets him really play off, and it makes the emotional hits around his character hit harder.
I think one of my
I'm
favorite.
dancing around spoilers here. On a 7-year-old Star Wars film, but
One of my favorite moments in Rogue One is whenever they are blindfolding everyone, and they blindfold him. He's like, "I'm blind."
I'm blind. Yeah.
That's what they all say.
All right,
Typical
Ryan.
excuse.
What about you?
All right, I'm going deep cut.
Oh boy.
yeah.
Okay. In John Wick, Clancy Brown makes an appearance.
I don't even know who that is.
This?
Now he is the older gray-haired guy with the scar on the eye.
Oh, he's like the not an elder, but
Not
he's
an
like
adjudicator. He's a,
adjudicator or justice.
Oh, he was the bad guy in RRR.
No,
No?
that's Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, good try, but no.
Oh, I tried.
They're just a white guy with a white beard, kind of portly.
I mean, they look kind
They
of
all
the
look the
same.
same. Yeah.
What was his name in this movie? It starts with a G. He was the
He's the adjudicator.
no, that was John Wick 3, the bald-headed lady.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
He is a
I
it
can't
starts
remember.
with a G.
I don't
Either way,
know.
whatever.
It doesn't
Anyways,
matter.
he was in Starship Troopers. It came out in 1997. That's the movie I wanted to talk about.
Wait, who is he in Starship Troopers?
He's Sergeant Zim. He's the drill instructor when they go to drill.
What?
Yeah. He also was the bad guy in Highlander, the Krogan. He was that was like one of his first movies. I was going to go that way and like do a whole Highlander thing, but I was like, I want to talk about Starship Troopers. Yeah. So Starship Troopers came out in 1997, right? And it's a Paul Verhoeven movie, which if you've never seen a Paul Verhoeven movie, his most popular one's probably RoboCop.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I don't think I have seen that.
Yeah.
Yes.
He has a very like hyper violent style, but then also very like
Campy?
satirical.
Yeah.
It's very like in RoboCop, it's all like, SPF 9000 sunscreen because we didn't need the ozone, and then like, like everything's just very cynical and the police corporate state runs everything, So Starship Troopers is.
It does not start with a G. It's the Harbinger.
Harbinger. Harbinger. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. So, anyways, in Starship Troopers, the incredible long plot summary on IMDb is humans in a fascist militaristic future wage war with giant alien bugs.
Nailed it.
End of sentence.
They got it. Full encapsulation.
Great.
Yeah, Starship Troopers is a lot of fun. It's real campy. It's definitely like mid 90s or 97, so it's got that like bad CG.
It's got the mid 90s camp hard in there.
It's almost like charming CG now, though, where like because it's not trying to take itself too seriously and it's trying to tell this almost cynical story that it's not as like the CG doesn't age as bad because you can look at it with like
It helps too that I think most of the CG doesn't have like humans for scale in it.
Right.
It's just large space things.
bugs. Yeah,
Or the bug. Like you don't really get to compare stuff very quickly.
yeah.
Yeah. So like I haven't seen this film. So I
Wait, you haven't seen Starship Troopers?
No, I also haven't seen Highlander.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Wow.
What?
We need to have a Clancy Brown marathon.
I am familiar with Highlander, but I've never actually seen it.
It is an interesting film.
So
I
Starship
loved it as a child.
Yeah.
Highlander or
Yeah,
Starship Troopers?
both, but specifically Highlander.
Okay, because I was like, so Starship Troopers has an interesting moment. They have a co-ed shower scene in the military.
Yeah.
And the only way that the actors agreed to do the scene was if everyone else on set was also naked.
That's the way to do
So
it.
like the director was just in his chair naked,
Yeah.
cameraman naked.
Paul Verhoeven was probably already naked before
He was down the cloud. He was like, yeah, sign me up, let's go.
But this movie's got Casper Van Dien in it back when he was trying to be like a thing. Denise Richards, Dina Meyer, Jake Busey, Neil Patrick Harris.
It does have Jake Busey.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I watch it every like 5 or 6 years. It'll pop on Netflix and I'll be like, I'm in the mood for Starship Troopers.
It's funny because it very much so kind of subverts the actual book.
Yeah.
because the movie is very campy and the book is not.
Yeah.
It's very much so anti. Like the movie is the type of propaganda the fascist state would have created.
Right. Yeah.
Basically.
But Clancy Brown as the drill instructor is great in that movie.
Okay.
It's not a huge role, but like he's so war hardened and so like just salty. He does great.
Gotcha.
What's yours, Andrew?
Okay, so I chose not to go with the movie because there is a TV show that has 2 of the characters in John Wick 4 in it. Over the course of the seasons.
I think I know what
This is The Wire?
No.
Oh.
This is Lost.
Oh, okay. Next choice.
So,
yeah.
so I
Who's
chose
in Lost?
I chose Lance Reddick.
Of course. Rest in peace.
Really
sadness.
unfortunate.
Yeah, that sucks.
because he died very early. You know, he's only like what 60.
He's 60. He might be like 60.
Yeah.
But he passed away right before the movie, like before the movie came out.
Yeah, pretty much like the week before the movie release, which is really unfortunate.
Just so sad.
I watched a red carpet interview with Keanu and he like almost started crying. I was like, I gotta stop watching this.
Well, yeah, because
talking about-
you work with these people for so long, and you know you're friends.
Well, they like some stuff I've read. Like Reddick had a lot of insight and input into like the early stages of the movies, and they formed a pretty close friendship. So this hit Keanu pretty hard. I mean, we still haven't really heard. I haven't seen anything other than it wasn't like it was deemed nefarious or
it
word.
was just natural causes.
It was natural causes.
So the other thing is too is that because of just how film and stuff is distributed, they couldn't basically fit in a memoriam.
Yeah, that's right.
Just because it was so close.
It was already. I mean, it was like 2 days before the release or something like that. It was already like out to theaters.
Yeah. But okay. Anyway, so. I chose Lost because Lost has Lance Reddick in it, who plays Matthew Abaddon, who basically is kind of like a liaison for one of the overarching major players later on in seasons 4 and 5. And he's kind of like the helper that gets people to where they need to go.
Yeah.
And
so it's kind of a very similar role to John Wick.
Very mysterious. Lance always had those kind of like eyes.
Yeah,
like you just stare at him and like you can just tell that he's like he's thinking about it, like there. And throughout the seasons, he kind of pops up here and there. He's not a major character. He's just one of those when you see him, you're like, oh no,
right, something's happening.
About to go down.
And then on top of that, Hiroyuki Sanada is in Lost as well.
I didn't know he was in Lost.
Yeah, he's in the last, basically the last season.
Okay.
He's kind of like the leader of quotation marks the others, where kind of like they end up in like this temple kind of thing or whatever. And but yeah, so both of them are in it, and that was kind of like the first thing I thought of whenever I was like, oh, that. So that's where I learned who Lance Reddick was through Lost. And Hiroyuki Sanada I already knew, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like every time he shows up, I'm like, oh, cool, it's him. And but yeah, so Lost, if you were unfamiliar with it, just because I'll give a quick synopsis here, is. Are
you lost?
Yes. So here we go. So the series follows the lives of plane crash survivors on a mysterious tropical island over a commercial passenger jet from the fictional Oceanic Airlines crashed somewhere in the South Pacific. Each episode typically features a primary storyline on the island as well as a secondary storyline of a flashback. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's very much J.J. Abrams mystery box kind of stuff. And unfortunately, throughout all the seasons, about half the things that pop up as questions don't really get answered. Now, that's not to say that the show isn't good. It definitely hits its peak kind of early on, and then it tapers off a little bit.
It's a very J.J. Abrams
It is. Piece. But the later seasons definitely are worth watching, and we just recently rewatched it a couple months ago.
Yeah,
and we enjoyed every single bit of it. I mean, like it's still fine. It's still just I think that the show would have been a lot better had it come out during the age of streaming.
Okay,
and not beholden to broadcast.
Yeah, because it was ABC, and I remember when it came out. Like I followed it for like I want to say the first 3 episodes, and then again I missed episode 4,
and you just can't.
Never caught up. Never saw the so like you're lost until the first DVD set comes out. Then you can watch all of it, and I just never did. Yeah, and then I kept hearing mixed things from people. Like some people were all about it, and then other people were like it's jumping the shark, it's gone too far. And then after it ended, I was kind of like, well, now that it's over, maybe I'll check it out. And again, you heard there's a lot of differing opinions on whether or not it ended satisfyingly or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those shows where you can definitely like. If it came out now, it would be a much better show for it, just because one, they could push a little bit more of the action and kind of like the graphic elements of the show.
Yeah.
And they could also not be beholden to an hour block of time for every single episode.
Yeah.
To where there is a lot of pacing issues that happen throughout each season where you just don't need 4 episodes in here, and you could crunch it down and kind of mix it up to be a little bit more interesting.
Extend some episodes, shorten other ones. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was my pick. Lost. It's kind of a hard watch to get people to watch it because it's 6 seasons of a show. But
right.
All right. So we are moving on to John Wick 4, which is what we're here for, right?
That's
why I came.
What we're here for.
Joke's on you. We're talking about Rogue One.
Oh, no. Well, okay, I'll still talk about that.
All right. Buckle up. Let's go. Time to go to a galaxy far, far away.
So John Wick 4, directed by Chad Stahelski.
Stahelski, I think.
Stahelski. Yeah. Excuse me. Cinematography by Dan Lauston, who he has done basically 2, 3, and 4 for this. He didn't do the first one. Music was by Tyler Bates. It stars Keanu Reeves, Donnie Yen, Bill Skarsgård, Lawrence Fishburne, Hiroyuki Sanada, Shamir Anderson, Lance Reddick, Rina Sawayama,
Clancy Brown,
Scott Adkins, Ian McShane. A massive cast.
Keeps going, yeah.
And so we're going to go over a little bit of some box office numbers here, which are interesting.
All right.
It's blowing up kind of, isn't it?
So the first John Wick, we're going just domestic numbers here for the first opening weekend.
Right.
Not total gross.
Yeah.
So the first John Wick only made $14.4 million. Not too bad for kind of just a completely unknown thing.
It's also, when you have an R-rated film, typically your take is less just because there's a whole subsection of
people that just can't go.
See it.
Well, I want to say that was like 2014.
It was 2014.
It was.
Yeah. So that was, I don't know. I feel like because of John Wick and like maybe Deadpool and stuff, we've kind of had a R-rated movie resurgence.
We've had kind of a renaissance of R-rated movies getting bigger box offices.
Yes,
for sure.
Well, and this absolutely tracks because then John Wick Chapter 2 made basically double the money at $30.4 million. And then John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum made 56.8. So it's kind of like keeping the trend kind of doubling itself. Yeah. You don't double it here, but John Wick Chapter 4, the one that we're talking about, is $73.8 million on the opening weekend, which is the highest, obviously, of the whole franchise.
Yeah.
And then it's also the highest R-rated film since 2020.
Okay.
So since the pandemic.
Yeah, since the pandemic.
Yeah.
So this also, it did so well in an opening weekend that it kind of put back on the table discussions of Chapter 5.
It did.
Which is interesting discussion.
Kind of worrisome.
Yeah, I don't know what the thought process will be there, but they like money, so we'll see.
So essentially, as of recording right now, John Wick Chapter 4 has grossed $86.2 million in the United States and Canada, $66.6 million in other territories and worldwide, so $152.7 million total.
That's pretty respectable. Yeah.
Very respectable. Now it had a budget of $100 million, so it hasn't necessarily made its money back yet.
It's well on its way.
It's well on its way. Yeah. And especially with all the buzz kind of going with it right now, it's definitely probably going to hit that number, at least breaking even pretty easily.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. So I'm curious at what our thoughts are for this, because I think we have 2 John Wick stands in the room and then 1 John Wick not stand.
And then we have a Steven in the room.
So
I'm
curious to hear what you guys think about it.
You want me to go first?
Well, we should start positive.
Okay. So
I don't know. Do we? Well, yeah, we need to. We'll do a critique sandwich. So we'll go Ryan, Steven, then me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I really liked this movie. I think this is my favorite of the John Wick sequels.
Yeah.
I still think I like the original John Wick the most.
I think the first is still the best.
Yeah, I think it's the most solid, self-contained movie
narratively,
with the most acting and dialogue from Keanu Reeves of any of the movies.
I have opinions on that. We'll get there.
It's not your turn, so just calm down.
Look, Steven, just calm down.
Keep it parked in the garage over there, Hot Rod. Okay, we're coming to you next. I thought the choreography was great. I think so many of the locations and set pieces and like the sets, like the interior design, it's like, and the way the cinematography captures it is just incredible. And they do a really good job with color and bright and dark spots. And I like all of the action set pieces are very creative, like the stunt work and the like. This is like a the stairs level. This is the car level. This is the everything has its own like feel to it.
It definitely felt very compartmentalized, like a video game.
It did have a video game feel to it, and it had like set pieces. It was like this whole section, in
downtown Paris.
Yeah, Osaka or whatever is like this is how it is, and like the color schemes and everything changes. And I thought a lot of the characters were fantastic. John Wick was okay in this one.
He was fine.
He was fine. But
I think he was probably the weakest out of the whole cast.
He was, but everyone else in the cast, to me at least, did so good that it like almost counters it. And I remember, like, for me at least, my history with John Wick is like I went to see the first one in the theaters, and I remember some of my friends were like, "That looks like a straight to DVD movie. What are you talking about? Like, why are you going to see that?" I guess they equated it to like those Liam Neeson,
like
straight to streaming,
the copies of Taken that he did with him. So.
Yeah,
not
he himself
Taken,
did later. Yeah. And so I was like, no, I think this movie's going to be good. And of course, I had heard the buzz, and I knew like a stunt director was going to be directing it or whatever. Loved it. And then the second one I liked pretty good.
It was fine.
It was fine. Again, they do a lot of cool set pieces, a lot of color and stuff like that. But the story of the second one kind of, for me, it was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
The third one I liked, I think, better than the second one.
I don't know. I think the third one jumped the shark pretty hard.
It did. The third one, there are definitely some action set pieces in the third one that impressed me. Like the fight in like the knife shop.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the knife shop is great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely like felt a little too long.
Yeah.
This one to me, I don't know. For me personally, I enjoyed it the whole way through. I think the cinematography, the action, it was all great. So I'll stop there before we get to spoilers. I enjoyed it a lot. Steven.
Right, we started out with some fascinating opinions over here. So we'll go positive. We'll go positive early here.
Yeah.
I think throughout the series, they've had a really good understanding of the use of light and color and like high contrast, dark with one character, spotlighted or picked out of the background. They do a good job. They've done a good job of that throughout. Even from the start of the first movie with the club scene, they kind of set the tone for it there. And like you see it in Osaka, you see it in the club in Berlin.
Yeah.
Like they do that. They do that really well. I think and again, the first movie is my favorite by a pretty wide margin. I think the problem is the deeper we've gotten into this franchise, we haven't refreshed the emotional well and connection with John Wick as a character.
Yeah.
The first movie hits you hard on the emotional notes, and we have connections and these kinds of things. But the deeper we've gotten, the less interesting he's been emotionally as a character in terms of like not just his motivation, but just like the stakes surrounding him and his connections. Like we constantly get these characters who come in who are pretty entertaining, interesting characters who have some connection in the past, but we've never seen them before. And then their choices to have almost no weight to them because there's no connection.
We need more backstory.
Right. We need more. They needed to have characters from 1, 2, and 3 that are showing up at this point for this movie, or some better. I don't want to propose a flashback.
See, the issue with that is whenever you your whole moniker is basically killing every single person that you come in contact with.
There is an issue there, right? Definitely. So my biggest issue on this movie is not that the stunts were bad. I thought that they did a cool job, but I think your video game interpretation of it is really accurate in that it felt like I failed this attempt and had to do it over again 3 times because they did the first run of this set of stunts. Oh, that was cool. And then they did it again. And then we went around the roundabout again. And it was like, am I respawning? Did I just see this? And it had like the stairs, like all these sequences, they kind of did the same thing over and over and over again. And it was really, really drawn out to the point where there were points in the movie where I actually like put my head back and audibly groaned. And I was like, oh my gosh, can we please move forward?
See, I never had that effect.
Well, because...
But yeah,
we'll get into it
I completely agree with you
wall.
that like they are definitely... It feels like the scenes, especially the action scenes, go on almost a beat too long.
Probably like an extra like 2 minutes too long is generally kind of where
it feels like some of them could have been trimmed and they definitely stretch the absolute fabric of reality and limits of the imagination of how much damage John Wick can take in this movie.
Yeah.
Compared to the other ones, like he goes through way too much. I mean, any normal person gets hit with a car one time, you're done.
Yeah.
You know. But in the other movies, if he got hit by a car, he would be like, out of it for a while.
I mean,
and this one, it's like, I gotta stumble to the next thing.
Yeah, we see him in the first movie, like have to pay for like a underground doctor and stuff. Like we don't see any of that. So I think that it kind of dovetails in with my biggest point. My biggest complaint here is John Wick 4 is 2 hours and 49 minutes long.
Is it really?
Apparently,
it did not feel that long
there was a 3 hour and 30-minute
There
cut.
was, and I'm so thankful they didn't go with that. That movie is an hour and 13 minutes longer than the first John Wick, where we got the most backstory and the most time spent on building up characters outside of action.
I would have told you this movie was 2 hours long if you just asked me off the top of my head.
See, that's
3 hours.
So again, for me, the sweet spot oftentimes for an action movie is the 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on how like deep you want to get. Like you want to get a little more investment, 2.5 hours. All right, that's fair. You can cash in on it. John Wick 2, 2 hours, 2 minutes. John Wick 3, 2 hours, 11 minutes. Like this thing, again, for building up probably the least amount of emotional connection to our main character, they put so much more time into this, and it's ends up making a lot of sequences, especially as the film goes on, feel very repetitive.
So
I wonder if they did that because this was theoretically supposed to be the last movie
at the time.
And
they want to just go all out,
leave nothing on the table. Like
it's a stunt heavy director. They've got a bunch of ideas they want to, and that's totally fine. They just at some point you have to make choices of are you just doing like a demo reel, like this is how good we stunts, or like hey I coordinated it. I don't know. Like Andrew.
Okay, so I liked it pretty good. I thought that the cinematography was way stepped up than anything else in the franchise.
And they really went heavy on the illuminated pools of light, dark contrast.
I rewatched 3 like the night before I watched 4, just because I already knew 1 and 2.
I oddly enough did 2, but not by choice.
Oh, well, what? Someone held you down?
I was in a hotel and I just turned on the TV and it was just on. Yeah.
I can't find the remote. I guess I'm watching this whole thing
here. The door doesn't work. My legs, I can't get off the bed.
No, those Clockwork Orange things are like holding my eyes open. No, what kind of hotel is this? So I willingly watched 3. And I agree. I feel like the cinematography in this one stepped it up a little bit.
Well, so I looked back at all the other cinematography credits because I was like, is this just a new guy? No, it's just the same guy. So he clearly
honed his craft.
Yeah, really honed the craft in between the 2, or 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And
well, I will say now they had a lot of time to work on this.
They did because they delayed it multiple times.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out in 2021, and then it was delayed to 2022, and then it was delayed to now. Like they've had a ton of time in post production to fiddle with some levels, like amp it. Oh, we could let's get in here and really hit the blacks and then bring up the lights and get some highlight or whatever.
And I don't know how many reshoots they had, but they could have punched up some
I don't know if
scenes
they did reshoots or not, but they had a ton of time in post to work on it.
But so I liked it pretty good. I thought that I do agree with Steven that the emotional stakes that we've been kind of on was really, really high at the beginning. And then as we've gotten further on, just because the whole conceit of this franchise is basically he is just a walking death beam. Yeah. And anyone that he comes in contact with will eventually die.
Yeah. But you can do a lot more with that.
You can.
Right? There are other ways. Again, it's just they gave all the emotional weight at the start of the franchise, and we've been kind of running out of gas on that, running on fumes on that the whole way, and they haven't given us a refresher. Inject us with something.
I feel like the twist or the shift was the first movie was the emotional weight of what he lost. I'm trying not to spoil the first one, even if you're listening to this. Come on, you can probably see. And in this one, it's more of the ramifications of what happened in 3. So it's like a revenge.
Oh, it is. It definitely
which is less. I guess it's less emotionally impactful for an audience to get behind.
Yeah.
I think what it is what we're seeing is kind of like the transcendence of the character John Wick from being someone that exists in this movie to someone that exists in pop culture, where you're just supposed to root for John Wick and you want John Wick to get his revenge.
Right. Well, and so that kind of brings me to my other part was this is just a superhero movie at this point. The first one was very much grounded in reality. At this point, if you're at movie 4 and you haven't bought into the conceit of he's not like the likelihood of him dying in this film is very, very low.
Yeah.
Just because, like, regardless of if he gets hit by cars, bullets, or whatever, he's the main character. He is the master assassin. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Movie 3 definitely kind of felt like that was the shark jumping moment.
Yeah.
And also kind of the moment where they started doing these really extended stunt scenes.
A lot of the action set pieces did feel like they did go a little bit too long, especially in Paris. I thought the Osaka like set piece was actually quite good.
I liked that
the
one a
first
lot.
part of the movie, I didn't feel like, we're repeating. It was the later parts where it was just like, holy cow.
Like, honestly, the fight in Berlin was killer. It was great.
Yeah, that didn't feel bad either. Again, it's Paris.
Once you get to the Arc de Triomphe circle and everything, and he's just getting hit by cars, and you're just like, oh gosh, all right, come on, like I know we have like another 20 minutes in this film.
I don't know. That one started off pretty wild. I like the way it started.
Right. Like, we can kick it
good,
off.
and there are some fantastic moments in there, which we'll get into behind the spoiler wall. Yeah. But overall, I thought the movie was pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought Donnie Yen completely stole the film.
I would say Donnie Yen did great. I also think Bill Skarsgård did
Bill
really
Skarsgård
good.
was great too.
He almost stole it from me.
My theft was him as a villain.
Oh, he's great.
Was a great like he has that like down pat. Like, dude, is this actually what your life is? Like,
his outfits that he wore were killer.
They fitted him out with some suits.
I was like, where do you even buy something like that?
You have to be French to buy it.
I guess so.
You got to show up with the right accent.
But I mean, Donnie Yen as essentially a blind master assassin was great. I liked him as Kane. His emotional arc was quite good, I think. Mm-hmm. And you actually wanted to root for him more than you wanted to root for John Wick, I think.
The emotional weight of what he had going on was kind of like mini John Wick, right? Mm-hmm. Like we were getting these bits and pieces, and it was like, we just got introduced to this guy, and we're kind of pulling for him, but we're pulling against our main. This feels kind of awkward.
Well, I almost was going to say that when we were talking about the emotional weight, is almost like there's almost not enough room for John Wick to have a lot of emotional weight because we're doing so much with Kane and his whole story.
You just need to connect them either better at the start or give us something to make that, and then just by default, it has weight with Wick because we have the weight there. You know what I mean? Like once you make that connection, you're golden.
Well, and I'm sure if they had originally planned that this movie was going to go 4 movies in deep, they would have maybe introduced him earlier in one of the other
obviously they had no idea where this franchise was going to go at the time.
Yeah, well, because like the first one was a big like post box office hit. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, we're going to keep doing it. And they're like, oh, we just doubled our money. We just almost doubled our money again. And we can keep doing this.
Well, because now they've greenlit a TV series called the
Ballerina.
No, that's the Ana de Armas movie.
Yes.
That's a spinoff. Okay, I knew there was a spinoff.
There was also a.
It's the name of the hotel, the Continental.
The Continental.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Then there's also the there's Donnie Yen has like, oh, I'd be open to doing another John as Kane or whatever. Right. So you could have a spinoff there, which I'd totally be fine with. I like Donnie Yen.
Yeah. So they might end up, I guess, ballooning this out into. It sounds like they're trying to create a
cinematic universe.
A cinematic universe.
Yeah. Well, we also, not to continue the Marvel superhero, metaphors here. We also get a post-credit scene. So they're kind of playing that game. So,
before we move to the ad break, would you rewatch it and would you recommend it?
Number one, absolutely. I own the first 3 on 4K Blu-ray, and I will own this one because it's a great example of 4K.
I have an
movies.
IMAX theater in my basement.
I wish I did, man. My wife only let me get a 65-inch TV. I'm like, let's go for the 85. It'll take up the whole wall. Can you believe it? So I watched this at we have a theater here in town that has like the Dolby Cinema. Yeah. I watched it there that has the HDR projectors and all that stuff, and like the colors were like insane and popping. So number one, as a fan of HDR and 4K content, yes, I'll be getting this just as a showpiece for a Blu-ray, but also because again of the sequels, I think it's my favorite of the sequels.
I definitely think it's the best of the sequels.
So I'll definitely be rewatching this, and would I recommend it? Only if you've seen the first 3 John Wicks.
Yeah, you have no idea what's going on.
Not only a pretty hard film to just jump into, I guess you could watch it just for the pure like the stunt, the coordination, like
the
appreciation
battles of it. Yeah.
So if you really, really enjoy action movies and stunt choreography and action set pieces, and you're like, I want to see something that's like an execution of the highest caliber in American cinema for sure. Or this may be a foreign film. When was this? I think it was filmed in France, a large part of it. But I still think it's an American production.
Still technically a Hollywood film.
Like comparing it to like a Hong Kong action movie, right? Like this is one of the better examples of like just choreography and fight scenes that you'll get. So if you just want that, go for it. Yep. Check it out.
Steven?
So my rewatch recommendation here comes with a big caveat, right? And I've already talked about this with the two of y'all. So I do not know if it was just the theater we were in or if it was actually the film from my own viewing perspective. It felt a little too dark throughout and hard to keep track of what was going on.
It's got to be The Summit.
It probably. So my caveat would be I probably would like to rewatch this like at home.
Yeah.
Just in my own, controlled environment where I can watch
on
it.
his iPad.
Yeah, on my phone. Just on
your phone.
On my iPhone 5 in the bathroom.
Like a minimized
Bluetooth earbuds.
Yeah, minimized window.
Just phone speakers.
So either way, just in some other environment where I can be like, okay, maybe I just missed some things that happened in the background or whatever. So I'm not like wild to rewatch it. I don't know that I've actually really gone back and rewatched the other three. I know I've watched the first one more than once. I think I've seen the second one more than once. I know I haven't seen the third because the third one also had kind of the extended stunts where it makes me just be like, oh, get on with it. Things that, so I haven't gone back to that one.
Yeah. I
actually went back and like reread synopsis. But, okay, where are we? I want to make sure I understand who
the
these people are going to be.
Yeah.
Would I recommend it? Now, if you are a fan of John Wick as a series, absolutely. This is for you. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's long, but if you are a fan of big stunt set pieces, crazy over the top, I think the director has actually said, like, the point was the overindulgence in this.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're in here to just be like, hit me with all the crazy gun battles that just go for 25 minutes, like, yeah, get in there, get you a watch. It's gonna hit the bill.
I'm the same way. I think it's a great movie to recommend and watch, especially if you like the action, gun fu, whatever. It's very anime and video game-esque. There are some phenomenal kills in this, just like very creative ones, and hard to pass up, right?
Are you currently not feeling overloaded with golden Spanish doubloons? Well, let me tell you, have we got an affordable option for you. If you want to check out the rest of our great episodes, SpoilersIntendedPodcast.com has every single prior episode for free. That's right. Not one doubloon, not two doubloons, no doubloons needed.
Zero doubloons.
Zero doubloons.
You're welcome to give us doubloons, though, if you want.
We would love.
If you want, I can give you an unmarked address.
If you want to donate me a Spanish doubloon, I will not tell you no. However, everything on the website is free, including links to great things like our Discord, our socials, and our Patreon.
Yeah, and on our Discord, we have great amounts of discussion every week, every day. We like to talk about what we're listening to, what hobbies we're doing, what we're watching that isn't even podcast related. It's a great place to kind of hang out.
Yeah. And then also we have two things of social media, two services. We have Facebook and Instagram. Two. That's it. So you should definitely follow us, check us out. We post fun stuff on there, and we also post every week what we're going to be watching or reviewing the next week and where you can watch it so you can watch along with us.
And we are back from our shameless shill ad break, and this is the spoiler wall. This is, if you go any further and you haven't seen the film, you're going to be spoiled. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like get out now if you don't want to be spoiled. Otherwise, carry on.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it anymore. I'm sorry. We've
committed.
We've done what we can.
You're locked in. Clockwork Orange has taken over. Your ears have been propped open.
I'm in the same hotel. I'm going to listen to this podcast.
Who keeps booking this hotel?
They're holding my ears open. I can't stop listening.
All right, so before we get into our breakdown, I have some trivia that we can go through.
Trivia.
All right, so we've already talked about Keanu Reeves speaks just 380 words in this film, one of the lowest in main characters for a movie. Keanu Reeves went through 12 weeks of training in martial arts and stunt driving to do as many of the action sequences himself. I know a lot of that was the nunchucks, which I like.
Dude.
like
Nunchucks-
really impressive.
Nunchucks are such a high skill bar thing to just wield.
There's a lot of risk reward when you're using
it's a
There's a lot of risk, very little reward. I feel
you can mess up and you're
club.
gonna mess up so bad.
It just will club you on any given moment.
Yeah, so I know that was one of the big things. The scene at the beginning of the film in the desert was done without digital enhancement. The place where John Wick meets the Elder is an actual rock where Lawrence of Arabia was filmed.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the Paris subway station where John meets the Bowery King and Winston is Porte de las.
One more time.
I'm not even going to try. It's often seen in films as this particular station, it has a disused platform that is still kept fully functional, so it can be rented to filmmakers who wish to shoot in a Paris subway, and they don't have to disrupt regular traffic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So basically, the Paris government has just kept this here. So you can just rent it out as a filmmaker and still shoot in Paris.
Yeah,
and
in
not
a
have
subway,
to
like
not
a
have
real
to
subway.
get permits or whatever to stop traffic or whatever.
That's like extremely clutch for filmmakers.
Yeah.
More places should do that because all sorts of movies have like subway scenes and stuff. That would be
Yeah. So the last one I have is Sven Marquardt, who plays Klaus.
Klaus.
Is a photographer and a bouncer of Berlin's most famous techno nightclub, Berghain.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's Klaus.
I am Klaus.
I loved him.
That's such a random character in the middle of all this.
Like it's so like comical because it's just so ridiculous that you just have this one dude that just I'm Klaus.
I'm Klaus.
All right, so let's get to it. Spectacle. What are we thinking here?
I mean, I'm just going to start off with the top-down shot with the incendiary rounds in the freaking shotgun. It made me feel like I was watching Hotline Miami. I was like, this is amazing.
I won't lie. I saw them like do the test fire with that as they're like gearing up to go out, and I was like,
"Oh, we're gonna have fun with this."
Did they get dragon's breath in this? Like what?
Yeah. Is this idiot not going to bring this to a John Wick fight? He's going to get that shotgun. But dude, every time he shot that thing, I was like, yeah.
Well, that was one of those great uses of where it's a very dark scene, but it's just so punctuated with just the boom,
extremely bright.
Yeah.
So according to director Chad,
the
inspiration for the top-down action scene featuring the Dragon's Breath shotgun was from a video game called Hong Kong Massacre that was released in 2019. Which I'd never even heard of. I was just like, oh, this is just a top-down first-person shooter.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, not first-person shooter, third-person.
Very
a top-down first-person shooter.
It's GTA.
You're God looking down.
Well,
early
early GTA, because later GTAs are over the shoulder.
Third-person, but yeah, I thought the Dragon's Breath scene was just phenomenal.
Yeah, that was great. I think, again, we talked about it a little bit before the spoiler wall, but I think like the set design, the costume design, the cinematography, the use of color and light, and the action choreography all were just, for me, spectacle to the max.
Yeah.
Like everything was hitting on all cylinders for me.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fantastic. I'm right on the same level there. Like the cinematography was just great. The action choreography was good, especially at the beginning of the film where everything was very crisp and you could tell exactly what was happening and blocked out to where you knew where characters were at all times and everything, which I thought was great. Towards the end, especially going up the stairs, it got a little muddy of kind of like exactly where people were in relation. Because I don't know that stairway up in France.
It's just
obviously.
a stairway.
Well, because like I don't know like where people can actually come out of.
Right.
Because at least when you're in like a building, you can see like other doors and everything. You're like, okay, someone's gonna come out of there.
Someone can come out of here.
Where
There's
this
just like all around you,
it's
360.
just kind of everywhere. Yeah.
So somebody at work pointed this out. Another friend I work with watched it, and they were like, if you notice when he falls all the way, which as soon as we saw the stairs, I'm like, he's going to fall down every single stair. When he's falling back down, there's no bodies from all the people that he killed on the way up, because the guy working is like, I kept waiting for him to like hit one of the bodies and stop, but he didn't. So he's like, were there other people running in and like pulling him out? I was like, I don't know. That's very much like a video game where the bodies just fade out.
Yeah.
I do want to also shout out the scene where Donnie Yen starts putting the doorbells around places.
Yeah, that was so cool. That was a great.
I didn't know what that was at first. He puts it up. I was like, that doesn't look like a plastic explosive.
Yeah.
What is this? And then so like, yeah, he's shooting where the sound. I was like, man, that's pretty cool.
It was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually, again, high points were really kind of at the start for me.
Yeah.
In terms of, except for the Dragon's Breath, because that was just a fun sequence in general.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was kind of like, just give me anything, please. Then they made him fall down every stair, and I borderline in the middle of the movie.
This is rioted.
I almost was just like, get on with it in the back.
Oh my God.
It was just like, good Lord, get him up these stupid steps already.
It's so wild to me because I was like, yes.
So our whole theater laughed whenever that happened.
It was. It also. Like it was almost played for comedy, like the way he rolled.
Oh yeah,
it was almost,
absolutely was comedy.
Like if there had been like a boom whoop in there or something, I would be like, oh, okay.
What about the Scott Adkins in the fat suit?
Oh, he was
scene?
great.
That was great.
That was good.
I was like, I always just assume with Scott Adkins that because I haven't seen any of his solo movies.
Because he's a martial artist.
Yeah, he's a martial artist, but they're all like straight to DVD fare or straight to streaming fare. I always just assume
it's like discount Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, he's like a bad actor, is what I assume. But after seeing it, well, that's my assumption is he's really good at martial arts, but he's not a good actor. Whereas Jean-Claude Van Damme has won multiple Oscars. I don't know if you know that. In his own mind.
Yeah.
But like him in this movie, I was like, let's put this guy in more stuff.
Right?
This is great.
So that whole sequence, like when they like sit down at the table and everything, I was like, wow, we just like ripped a Bond villain out of like the 70s here and just dropped him in with like the gold teeth. Like I really liked that sequence.
Yeah.
Especially like the dealer and the cards. Which, although I will
Kane's
say,
like, let me guess, there's 5 of a kind.
Yes. Well, but also when he dealt the cards out, I was like, okay, what kind of weird French game are we gonna play? He's like 5 card draws. Like, oh, what are we, children? Like, what is this?
So when he popped up on screen, like I didn't know he was in this movie because I was like media blackout after the first teaser. I was like, I know I'm gonna see this. Like, no point. He pops up on screen. I recognized him, and I turned to my wife, who obviously hasn't seen a Scott Adkins movie. If I haven't, and I lean over and I go, that guy is a very good martial artist in a fat suit. So this scene's gonna go nuts.
So
get ready.
It's funny too because I don't know who Scott Adkins was, but I knew that he was a martial artist like after the fact.
So you didn't recognize him when you saw it?
I didn't know who he was. Yeah,
but I know Scott Adkins was a martial. I just didn't know it was Scott Adkins.
Got it.
And so like they're going through the scene and everything. I'm like, oh, clearly this guy's gonna die. And
he gets that first roundhouse.
Oh, I was like, oh man, this guy's got some moves.
Cranks back for that kick, and I was like, whoa, hello.
Well, and then he treats it like he's basically like a sumo wrestler that can like martial arts kick.
Also, insane roundhouses.
Also very flexible.
So Scott Adkins has like a bunch of like YouTube videos that people have done where he's done like martial arts workshops, and he shows people how to like kick someone 3 times in midair before you hit the ground, and like he does a bunch of stuff like that is probably in all actuality not effective in a martial arts fight, but it's wildly impressive to see somebody do it.
So
I was waiting for him to do that, like like a Liu Kang bicycle kick before he hits the ground.
So for his like makeup and stuff, like he obviously had a big fat suit and a lot of prosthetics and stuff. And because they were filming in the in like all the water for a lot of the action sequences, like it would all get waterlogged down.
So he's like
to where he's like even heavier than what he had.
And he just
had to deal with it just because like they take
it's not like we have 18 fat suits. You just swap one out real fast.
You can't hot swap a fat suit. It's not how it works.
So I mean I thought he was great. Like,
what a crazy club scene too! Like that's another thing, spectacle-wise. They always come up with like the weirdest and wildest clubs.
Well,
they
have like these incredible clubs that like you and I would never be admitted into.
No, there's no chance they're let me. It's like 100 yards of that place.
It's like that Seinfeld episode where George Costanza gets the picture of the hot girl and he shows it, and they let him into the club. And then he loses the picture and he can't find it anymore. It's like a meatpacking plant.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, so the thing I love about that that club scene is like while John Wick is just like railing these guys with hatchets in the foreheads and stuff. Like you'll see people in the back like stare at him. We're like, oh no, that just happened. I'm just gonna keep vibing.
Yeah, I'm on so much ecstasy,
and I'm European. And they just keep dancing.
Man, this German club is wild.
Yeah, like oh man, who paid for this show? But I do like the commitment throughout each one where they've had kind of like a wild, basically a wild fight scene where the background is just
yeah, it feels great
because I think that's a really cool play, right? Like it's a good, and you have kind of like when does the crowd realize like how does the panic
how do they react
work? Yeah, and like how does he like he's got a drawn gun on Adkins' character for a while and he doesn't take a shot because there's just people, there's so many people in his way. So I liked those kinds of things, right? And again, my big downer on Spectacle is it's the whole concept of you want to season your meal, right? You want to have various things, but like the sequence around the Arc de Triomphe in the
is exhausting.
The circle. So it was like I thought about this and I was like, man, imagine if you had just a whole sequence and someone just got in there and was like, Dutch angle, cut, Dutch angle, cut. Dutch angle, we like this. Cut, Dutch angle. Like, imagine how horrible that would be. And it kind of felt like it was the same, where they're like, we have 3 tricks up our sleeve, and we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
and just
it's like a waltz,
dude. Guys, you've played this out. Move someone forward. Move anyone anywhere, and like. Up to a point, right? Like the world building has been interesting because there's been kind of like, like the whole thing of like,
it's been silly.
One night in a hotel costs 1 doubloon. 1 drink at the bar costs 1 doubloon. Would you like to be stitched up from major medical trauma?
1 doubloon.
1 doubloon. Yeah. It's like, okay, I don't understand how this economy works, but it's at least kind of interesting and it feels kind of like the whole, almost like Underworld or any of those other kinds of movies where there's like this seedy hidden background.
Secret
the
society.
Normal people, you don't know. But we hit this point here in Paris where apparently Paris just doesn't have cops because like they have a raging gun battle for like 15 minutes at one of the most famous landmarks in the city.
That's kind of a hallmark of all the movies though.
It kind of is.
So there have only been cops twice in all the franchise.
Right. But that works for most places because most of the fights either take place like inside of like a club, like a very exclusive party of some, Italian
but not
whatever.
Like literally in the middle of one of the most famous places in the world.
Of one of the biggest, this is like they went to like the Notre Dame if it hadn't been burned down, and they had a gun battle, and it was just like, where are all the people? I don't know, like it was one of these things where like it's again, if we have a quick shootout and the action progresses somewhere else, then I don't start thinking, dude, how have the cops not responded to this yet? But when we spend 15 minutes in a traffic
it really
circle,
wasn't that long. It was like probably 5.
It felt like 15 minutes.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to performance.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually going to start with the negative here.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what Lawrence Fishburne is doing in these films.
I don't know that Lawrence Fishburne knows what he's doing in these films.
He's getting paid.
I think he got cast because somebody like, hey, you were in The Matrix with Keanu. That'd be cool, right?
Yeah.
Sure, what am I doing here? Just read the
it's
lines.
kind of a plot thing too, but I
paycheck.
just don't know what his character is there for.
Well, I feel like, to me, with each of these movies, we learn like a little more kind of the lore, if you will.
Yeah.
They build on the Continental and the High Table and that kind of stuff. But what we don't understand more of is the Bowery and how all that the underground homeless guy stuff works.
My impression has been that the Continental High Table, that is your high class version of this society.
Yeah.
And the Bowery is your low class side of it. That kind of they supply information. Like John Wick goes to the version of the Continental in Italy, and it's basically a sommelier there who's like, well, you want something for dinner? I want something big and robust. Oh, well, here's an AR-15. Whereas you need a gun and you're in not as nice a place. You just where's the hole in the ground I can find, and we'll hit up a dude and he'll hand me a Glock with 4 bullets in it. For a doubloon.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like for me, when they end up in Paris and he also has a network there, I was like, oh, so this is like a worldwide thing. Because my initial impression
was that he was New York.
Was that he was basically a reject from the Continental, and then he started his own little underground network. And then I think it's in 2 or maybe it's 3 where you kind of learn that they kind of work like a necessary evil together, together.
See, I think that he's the final boss.
Interesting.
I mean, just because of like the way, like how many connections that he seemingly has.
And he's so basically invincible throughout. Because I mean, he gets threatened in 2
and 3.
And 3, and like there's been no consequences. He still just flies wherever he wants around the world.
Well, he lived in 3 after they cut him up or whatever. He got 7 slashes after.
He gave 7 bullets.
7 bullets.
Yeah.
So back to his performance though, like I don't know, Lawrence Fishburne like is just kind of yelling every now and then.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "I'm the king." He's just saying that.
Yeah, it's a mood.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a lot of Lawrence Fishburne movies recently, aka since John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with a lot of his older stuff.
Yeah.
And
The Matrix. I mean,
even before The Matrix, like, I feel like he was a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he still is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I don't know that I've seen him do anything.
He may just be in the point now where he's just like, I show up, I get paid, it's a good life. You know,
could
like,
be,
I mean,
so to your point, like I don't know what he's doing with the performance either. He may just be Lawrence Fishburne in every movie now, and he's just showing up and having fun and getting
Which is
paid.
fine. Like, hey, get paid, man.
Yeah.
So the one character or actor I really liked was Rina Sawayama. She played Akira. So Hiroyuki Sanada's daughter, and also the concierge for the Osaka Continental. And I thought she was great.
I thought she did really good.
So she was like basically a pop singer before this, and director Chad,
golly,
he didn't even know anything about her, and he just basically was like looking at YouTube videos and just found a video of her, and he just offered her the job.
Because this is her first movie, right?
Yeah. And I thought she did fantastic.
She did really good.
Yeah, I liked and honestly would have liked to have seen more. I wish we had gotten more of her and Hiroyuki's character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always down for some more Hiroyuki.
Right. Well, yeah.
But I would have, like, again, it was like, hey, we paid a bunch of money to bring in, Hiroyuki Sanada. So anyways, I'm going to kill him in the first 20 minutes.
I mean, but he did quite a bit in that.
He did work in that 20 minutes.
He does what he needs to do in that.
Mm-hmm.
When he hits that button, they're like, don't do this. Everything turns green. I was like,
yes.
Here we go.
I wanted more. Well, that's more plot. I'll save it.
Yeah, and that's my issue here too. Is a lot of my performance critiques really fall under like a
just
plot.
kind of what existed.
I really enjoyed Bill Skarsgård as our villain.
He was phenomenal.
He was a great villain. Like, it's one of those things where it's kind of sad that the villain's fate for the end of every John Wick is
just
die.
To die.
Because he was one of those who, like, man, like, this dude could just be such a thorn in someone's side for so long.
Like, if he could have just gotten maimed in this movie and come back in 5 even more unhinged,
run away like a coward, more convinced he has to come. Yeah.
Because he did fantastic. I knew he was in it, but I wasn't like sure what kind of character he was going to play. And I've seen him play in a few movies, especially like Pennywise on the It reboots. He's really freaking scary in those movies.
I liked Shamir Anderson. He's the tracker.
He's the dog guy. Yeah.
He did really good.
Which I don't know who. Don't think I've seen him in anything else before this. I don't recognize his name.
Well, man, that scene of him and Skarsgård in the horse stable.
Ooh, that was a good one. The two of them going back and forth. That was and okay, I can't say it on this family-friendly podcast, but one of my favorite lines from Donnie Yen is when at the very end.
Don't take the deal.
He says Skarsgård says, "Think of your family," and he says, "F off," basically, but he says it extremely forcefully and loud. And I don't know if it's just my theater because we had like the Atmos stuff, but it like popped. I was like, yeah.
You feel good too because like Kane at that point is so over it.
Yeah.
Like, because he's only there to basically allow John Wick to kill this guy at this point. Like, because he's not there to try and kill John.
No, he's just trying to do what's right for his daughter, trying to keep her safe. But I thought Donnie Yen's, like maybe that character arc isn't the most original, but his performance as Kane, I thought was like fantastic.
Well, and one of the big things too for his character, they initially had him dress up in more like I'll say traditional
very
like
stereotypical Japanese robes and the like.
And he basically was like, no, we need this to be a little bit more straight laced without any stereotypes and also their kind of stuff.
Well, I think like one of his lines in a quote is like, "Why don't I get a suit?" I want a suit.
Yeah, and with those kind of things, like that's why I like Donnie Yen as an actor because he doesn't mind speaking out against that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and it honestly makes the film better for it.
100%.
It does. Well,
Also, his glasses or sunglasses were stylish.
Oh yeah, those are good.
Which also it gives a really good contrast between his character and Hiroyuki Sanada's character, who is very much so a traditionalist.
Yes.
Has, even within the society, he has kind of the traditionalist ideals of honor and these kinds of things that play out. The varying fates of these characters as their commitments to who they are, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I love that we got to see, a very, larger than life Japanese actor and a Chinese actor interact so much and have that scene together.
Yeah.
In an American movie.
Oh,
that feels great to me.
Yeah. Well, and the choreography for that fight was just so good.
It's so good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the score. There's no more score here, but we're just moving on to the score.
There's just score.
Just score.
It's not as fun anymore. You don't get to make puns.
You can't say the score of the score.
We can still say it.
We already have. We said it like 4 times at this point.
So I'm just going to go ahead and start with this one. I thought the whole soundtrack by Tyler Bates was great. However, the use of popular music was very, very good. And I'm very happy that I got to hear Justice in a major motion picture. Because Justice is one of my favorite, just kind of like, I'll say techno bands or whatever, or groups. They're not really a band. There's only 2 guys. Yeah. And they're both French. And him going up those stairs to Genesis. Oh man.
There's a lot of moments in John Wick movies like that where I feel like the soundtrack by itself is awesome.
It's great, yeah.
But when you pair it with the visuals a lot of times, it just amps up so many of the fight scenes.
Yeah,
and even
really does.
like we were saying earlier, like the club scenes, when it's just goom, skoom, skoom, you're like,
that's just perfect, right?
Yeah.
That kind of, because we already have the big stakes of a fight. We've got the crazy contrast of the light. We have spotlights going.
Yeah.
Random, coked out people dancing around, and then there's a fight in the middle of it.
Then you hit it with that cranked up music, and it just it's the perfect like the synergy on all levels. So like
it's very much so kind of like a Matrix pull. If I'm honest, because Matrix definitely had some of the techno stuff in there.
Yeah,
in kind of like your fight, kind of like almost clubbing type scene.
Well, they had a couple of clubbing scenes in the Matrix.
They did. Well, and I mean, the big one, at least going back to Matrix, is whenever they're going through basically the security checkpoint at the end of the first film, and that music that kind of punctuates. I can't even remember, but it's like a very like popular techno band at the time, and I was just really happy with them just adding Justice in, because like they were in France, in Paris. Justice is French.
It feels like whoever put together the soundtrack, Tyler Bates, I guess, knew. Okay, like this is going to match this scene perfectly, and they're French, and like
I'm not sure if we had anything else to add for soundtrack.
No critiques, really.
It was
great.
Good.
Yeah.
It was good for I think the song you're thinking of was "Spy Break" by Propellerheads.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was good. I think it did a good job of punctuating action. It did a good job of kind of covering the other scenes. Again, if we had bigger emotional moments, we could have had bigger emotional music to hit with it. But we don't. That didn't happen.
Yeah, but it's not that kind of film.
Yeah, for a John Wick film, this was a good soundtrack.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the plot, which is a total mess.
It's a bit of a mess,
It's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, a little bit.
So as we've gotten further into like the John Wick lore, or like whatever universe this is in, it just becomes so increasingly harder for me to like accept how silly this actually to buy this world is, which is fine. Like I'm here just to watch some creative kills and Keanu Reeves just be a one-man wrecking crew. But man, it's just so silly.
Well, I think the thing is, in the first movie, it was essentially just more or less like window dressing.
Yeah.
It was like, ooh, there's a hotel, and when you put, a doubloon down.
Yeah.
If you know the right people.
But then they're like, okay, we have to make an entire lore out of nothing now.
Well, because again, I presume, I have no idea. Like, I don't think they had all the lore for the Continental and the High Table mapped out when they did the first movie, you know? And so it feels almost like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if? And then they do it, and then it's like, now we go to the next movie, we're like, actually, these two things don't really connect, but you know what? Whatever. Wouldn't it be cool if? And then they just keep going, adding layers.
There's not just the law. There's also the super duper secret second set of laws that certain characters know and others don't. And then we'll introduce that, and then we can make this where it's like, okay, we're getting a little like, are all these people like lawyers? Like, how do they keep track of all these like addendums and caveats?
Well, and then in their own universe, they don't really stick to their own rules of like they're talking about the duel, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, we're gonna have to have this duel, and it's like this is old school style, and it's like John.
And no one can touch him after once he does the thing, and it's like, oh, guess what? Well,
but it's like if if he dies, you die too. Talking to
Winston.
Yeah. Like you die too. And then it's like, okay, so then at the end, my presumption was that like if Skarsgård dies, Kane dies too, because
that was
you come on the field together, you leave together in whatever form, and then they're like, your daughter's free and you get everything you need. Whatever.
Yeah, you're totally good. Yeah,
and I was like,
get out of here.
Oh,
well, maybe the Harbinger was just kind of like, man, I hate this dude.
Nobody likes this guy.
It kind of was, because what was that one line? It was a very good line, and way to go, Clancy Brown, for delivering it. He's like, don't ever let your ambition get outweigh your worth, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's a line.
That was a like, you're talking to like the hunting dog that the table has put out here and like said, hey, you have value because you're going to take care of John Wick for us. But if you prove you're not capable of this, they will burn you down in an instant.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
But even the creation of the Marquis as a character was kind of like, okay, we have trouble with John Wick going after the entirety of the high table. That's too amorphous of an idea.
Yeah.
So we made up some rules in the background that the high table have all voted and gave this dude extra judicial powers because he's the Marquis, which makes it easy for us to have a single guy that John Wick's going after, which I appreciate from cool.
A plot point.
More Skarsgård, so I'm on board.
Yeah.
But it felt like they got to this movie and they're just making it up as they go versus like having, like I said, a roadmap at the front, and they're like, okay, here's how the high table works. Here's how,
I did like, I guess, all of the Marquis henchmen, which are basically just heavies in a video game.
Oh, yeah.
To where...
So...
go ahead.
No, go. Like, this is henchman related. Keep going.
Yeah. Just of how kind of like silly they are.
Yeah.
Of like, they're all like they're styling in like their, their
gray
Spanish
suits.
gray suits or whatever. And Killa, the main guy, who, stops 2 arrows with his
Dude,
forearm.
when he catches that arrow, I thought he was going to catch it in his hand, and then it pans around, and he just took it in the forearm.
Yep.
This guy's
So I'm not gonna lie. I thought that dude died like 5 times in the movie, and like both my wife and I had an ongoing conversation of, is it the same guy? Is he back in, or they just all look the same? Like we were really confused about, because like he gets hit by like multiple cars, he takes multiple arrows,
he falls downstairs.
Yeah, it looked like well, not just downstairs. He gets thrown over like a balcony
and lands on his neck.
Yeah.
So that dude's named Marco Zaror. He's also a martial artist like Scott Adkins.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. I honestly thought like at the start in the fight in Osaka that he like took a couple arrows. And then like Hiroyuki's character went in and like sliced him and just gunned him down. I was like, oh wow, we're knocking these dudes out. And he pops back up. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I thought that you were the dude that he took that pin off your lapel because you were dead, and here you are back again.
He just looks so much like every general henchman.
Like they all like. And again, like I said, we had kind of an ongoing conversation of like, is that the same guy, or is it like they all look the same?
I mean, they all did look the same, but I think that's kind of the point, right?
Right. Yeah. It was just one of those things. Again, we had perhaps a slightly dimmer experience.
I was going to say, maybe you need to crank up your theater projector.
Well, now I will say this is totally irrelevant to everything else, because Andrew mentioned it too when I brought up that, we had like this little like speck on our projector, and Andrew's like, no, that was in the film. I saw that in my theater too.
I didn't see it on mine.
On our screen.
Yeah.
And it was there for like a good portion of the film.
It was there for a chunk of it.
Yeah.
Or it was there the whole time, and we got darker at Paris at night, you didn't see it anymore.
Well, it's possible that it's based like it only made it into like certain versions of the film.
Yeah, or like your
for different type
4K
of
Dolby whatever, it's not in there. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, because I didn't.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know.
I noticed stuff like that. Like
I noticed
that like a hawk
immediately.
Yeah. Oh no, I saw it and I
would
was
have gotten up and wiping the screen. What is going on?
I was like, well, maybe because they're doing like the horse chase, maybe it's something that kicked up on it. No, this is a different angle. That's not the camera. And then like my wife leaned over and she's like, "There's a speck on the screen." I was like, I know.
But yeah, I mean, like the plot for this film is paper thin. It doesn't really matter. I think.
I think
I did like what they did with Kane's character. And,
that helped a lot.
Yeah,
it did. And I liked the dynamic between Kane, Wick, and Hiroyuki's character.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Well, I do wish if we were going to play that dynamic, if we would have either extended that further into the film, or had his daughter figure in the film more.
A little more, yeah.
Like,
a little
she's
bit more,
kind of disappeared. Like, I thought, Wick is like the kickoff here is she's going to be like working opposite side of the table from him, trying to get this guy's revenge.
Right.
They're going to cross paths later on, and it's going to be like, don't kill, and maybe like, are we going to have a romance angle? I didn't know.
Right, yeah.
And then she just fell off the face of the earth, and that was it until you're in
the after credits
Yeah.
scene, yeah.
So it's just like, what?
Yeah, it would have been nice if, like, she was a much bigger part of the rest of the story, because then you have this tie-in of, like, she's trying to help John Wick, but then Kane, like, she's wanting to kill him, but Kane's trying to help John Wick, and like
I was struggling to pin down the tracker's motivations, like what his ultimate goal really was here.
Money.
Yeah.
Well, right, but like
why?
A 401k.
But like the money kept going up, and then
Typical
he would like
millennial.
change his idea or whatever.
Gen Z.
But like I had a hard time with his motivations up until John Wick saves the dog, and it's okay, crystal clear now. But like a character like her motivations are super clear, super obvious. I know what her goals. So I wish we'd had maybe a
little bit more.
Like Kane's motivations and like his conflict is really understandable. Keanu's conflict really understandable. Winston's same. Like most of these characters, it's
pretty cut and dry.
It's known, so like it flows better.
Well, and I liked the performance of
I
the
think he
actor
did a
that
good
played
job.
Tracker. So I wanted more with him to get
Give me some depth.
Yeah, I think it's just with this movie especially, there were almost like too many characters in terms of like you had the daughter, you had Tracker, and it's almost like you need to pick one.
Right,
and give us more meat on the bone.
One of those characters to like become both at the same. You know what I mean? Like merge them in some way.
And I don't know, like this is because I'm completely clueless on what they're trying to set up with like the TV show of Continental.
Or if there's going to be a John Wick 5, who's going to carry over.
And like Anna de Armas and Ballerina, like. So are these characters going to make an appearance in that? And we're going to get more of Tracker's backstory in like the Continental show and more of like the daughter's story in Ballerina, or like how is that going to work out? So there may be designs that we don't see
we just don't
yet.
see.
Right.
But just for the purposes of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately for the plot, where the plot was really harmed was just the pacing. Was one, there wasn't a whole lot to pin the emotional ties to, and then the pacing was like you could have one or the other, right? You could have a really slow, deliberate movie that just winds you up into a little ball and cuts you loose, and Andrew walks out sobbing, right? Or you could have the fast-paced action
went straight for you,
right for the jugular. Or you could have like the fast-paced action flick, boom, 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 right? Hits keep coming, and we kind of landed in between that, but without the emotional weight. And I think that, like, again, they needed to cut like 20 more minutes out of this, and most of it in the stunts, just to kind of get this thing to move.
I don't disagree. Now, I will say one thing that I really liked, and this is kind of edging into entertainment.
And we're basically there. I mean, we can just call
transition,
it now.
baby.
Call it entertainment. This
All
is.
right. So I have a question for you guys in just a second, but my it wasn't even my favorite moment, but I loved how John Wick got basically the Spike Spiegel ending of where he's just laying on the stairs in front of the church.
I didn't even think about that. It is exactly the Spike
They need to
Spiegel
blast
ending.
that song in there. I'm trying to think of what the name of the song is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Has anyone done a fan edit of that? I'm gonna go home tonight. Dibs.
But the second I saw that, I was like, it's Cowboy Bebop.
It was.
Here it is.
Oh yeah.
And because like it still ended with the fact that you don't know if he's actually dead or not. You assume that's kind of the point.
Yeah, like number one, like we see a grave. Let's get into that for just a little bit. Like, the assumption is that like this was their way of either making this the last movie or playing it off like we faked his death so he could be out.
Truly free. Yeah.
And he may be like, maybe there is no John Wick 5, but maybe he has a scene in Ballerina and now he's not an assassin anymore. He's something else or whatever. But like the dog looks off camera and whines at one point, and I thought, he's about to run over there to him or something's going to happen. And they don't do it.
Yep.
Okay, so
real quick though, for those that didn't stay for after the credits, the after credit scene is basically the daughter, Akira, but you see Donnie Yen's character Kane walking up to his daughter with like a bouquet of flowers, and then she whips out a knife and it goes to black.
Yeah. So we may have that as a continuation.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't hate. So I will say I saw this in the trivia, and again a little annoyed because our showing was so dark. I had a hard time picking up on the paintings that we had in the background of some places.
Uh-huh.
They're real super deliberate in painting choices.
Oh,
They
really?
definitely were, yes.
Oh yeah. So in the Met, this is not one I'm familiar with at all. I really wanted to know what it was because like, man, like I feel like I've probably been in these rooms at some point in the past. I want to know what this was. It's called The Death of Sardanapalus, which depicts a Middle Eastern monarch watching as his subjects are murdered around him by his own guards, mirroring the arrogance and self-destructive tendencies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had, other stuff for Winston. But the big one is there is a painting that is shown opposite John later in the film that is I cannot say this word, the incredulity
Yeah.
of St. Thomas, which is basically he doubts Jesus' resurrection, right? And it depicts Jesus with the stigmata, the wounds from the cross.
Yeah.
Well, those are the same injuries John receives. He gets stabbed in the hand. He takes the wound in the side.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
there has been some speculation. Like the chairman of Lionsgate has made comments about the idea of John Wick's resurrection.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're kind of paralleling some of that. So like this was there. They definitely.
I mean, John Wick 5 is just going to be named Resurrection.
Right. Yeah. Like they
Oh,
played.
that's right there on that.
Yeah, it's there. Like they played these cards in such a way where, hey, if the film does okay and we decide we're done with it, we're done with it. But if it makes us a lot of money, we want to keep making money.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely go see the next one.
I mean, I'll be curious. I want to know what's your excuse. So I want to know what happens.
Well, and Keanu Reeves has been quoted as saying, like, I'll make these movies as long as fans want to see them.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like that was his comment, like earlier, or as long as I can. 'Cause he's almost 60.
He's
I think
getting old.
and,
Yeah.
he does a lot of his own stunts, and that is a lot of work.
It is. So while we're still in entertainment, were you entertained?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I was extremely, and Steven less so, but still a little bit.
I was decent. Like again, the core of the universe in the film is there.
Yeah.
I think that it needed more time trimmed and worked on.
Yeah.
And I again, not to play on this, I had some thoughts as like, especially like the duel was being played out, where I really liked the card turning thing of where it's like an initiative draw.
Oh, I love that.
Those
Yeah.
big metal cards.
Yeah,
Holy
I thought
cow.
that was kind of cool, right? But I really, really expected, and you even quote it. You quote it at the start of this episode of Donnie Yen as Chirt Imwe saying, "I'm blind,"
Oh, yeah.
and then like the marquee, like they know it's pistols at dawn, 30 paces, and he's like, "I elect as my second Kane to take my place." He'd be like, "I'm blind. Like, how do you expect me to shoot a pistol at because they emphasize throughout the movie, right, with the little motion sensing doorbells, and like he's like running his cane and his sword along edges and stuff. To, and they did a really good job of him kind of like judging his territory,
surroundings, based
and
on sound.
I thought that was going to be kind of the plot of it was. We have them put up opposite each other where it's like, well, to start with, Kane's blind. He's already at a huge disadvantage. And he doesn't really want to kill John Wick, the person he really wants to get rid of is the Marquis. And Wick really wants the Marquis, doesn't like, they're friends, right? They have kind of some agreement with Kane. Yeah. So it'd be like them missing as they steadily get closer. Yeah. And then we have the Marquis step in because he's frustrated with the results. And then we have we got something different. But like the whole time I was like, man, like we're relying on the blind man to like just wing him. And then he stabbed John Wick in his good hand. He's relying on his off hand to just wing him. I was like, I don't know if this is the best plan, guys.
Yeah. Well, and I think that shows that he was maybe torn on whether he did.
Right. Yeah. I feel like the conflict was definitely there.
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be a different way for that to go because as soon as they were like pistols at 30 yards, I elect Kane to be my substitute. It was like, really, the blind guy? You're going to give him like the one shot pistol at 30
this
yards?
This is what you're doing?
What?
Yeah. This is your play.
This is your plan?
Two things. I like how they did that with the where he didn't take the shot, and that's why he had the extra shot, and it plays into his arrogance of Skarsgård's character. The other thing is when they're flipping the cards and they're discussing what you get. Like you're exonerated and you get the Continental back, you get your job back, you're back in this. And John Wick just kind of looks over
and always an angle.
Wait, what? You get like 8 things. I just get like, you're good. Bye.
I mean, you sent Winston in to negotiate. He's going to negotiate a piece of the pie for himself.
So question for both of you. What was your favorite kill?
Oh, God.
Oh.
So I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, start with yours.
Okay, so mine was Akira. Whenever she basically rolls on top of this dude,
climbs the dude with the knives.
No, that one was great.
Oh, okay,
No, but she basically rolls up on top of this dude, puts her knee on his neck, and then just fires a longbow arrow directly into his forehead.
Oh,
it was so cool.
I would say
Her climbing up the dude with
Her
the knife.
climbing the dude was pretty good too. That
I was
was
like, wow,
brutal.
we are in for the brutal on this one. Let's
Yeah.
go, which again was why I was like, I want to see more of her where she's just brutalizing dudes,
just
going on her way up.
full,
yeah,
and she was injured at that point too. No, she wasn't.
No, she got injured
Yeah,
after,
she got
I
injured
think.
after. Yeah,
I want to say my favorite, and I'm trying to remember. There's so many.
there are a lot of kills.
I think it was either the first or second. It's one of the first people he kills with the dragon's breath. Like when he takes the shotgun, maybe the first guy, maybe the guy he takes it away
takes
from.
it from. Yeah,
And he just smokes this guy, and you get to see like how
destructive
the dragon's breath is. That's probably
Yeah.
mine.
Well, I like it too as a solution of everyone's wearing these stupid bulletproof suits. Fine, I will set you on fire.
Right? Yeah, I got a solution
You will
for that.
not say no to me, all right? I think so. I don't know if I have like a one individual moment. I think y'all hit on two of the really good ones,
Yeah.
along with her doing like the back climb.
climbing up the dude.
I think for me, the thing that I've really liked, honestly, throughout the series it's not the kills, it's the kill confirmations. John Wick puts people on the ground,
Yeah.
and then once like he fights two dudes, he knocks one down, gets the other one down, they're both like bleeding out, and he's like, pop. Like there is no getting up, there's no follow me,
Yeah.
there's no I will avenge you later. You are down, you are vulnerable, you are dead.
Well,
Yeah.
and they play on that a couple times where like he hits a person, then he hits this other guy twice, and you hear the other guy go,
Like,
and
and
he
he
get up,
pop,
and he turns
yep.
around. Yeah.
I really liked whenever Kane's character just went into like spray and pray mode to where he would just like sidewind the gun and just fire in just a general direction. It's
Yeah.
like I think something's over
Sounds
there.
are over
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Which I also kind of laughed a little bit because it's like, hey, we're playing like the blind guy, right? His strength here is that he's going to hear better. Like everyone's just in an enclosed environment. Pow, 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 pow. He's not hearing squat, just like everybody else.
Well, I actually really liked how Donnie Yen used his walking stick / sword
That was well
to
done.
basically find stuff whenever he needed to. And apparently he said this was one of his favorite roles that he's done just because he had to get creative with how he had to fight.
Well, also like, and I don't know how much he studied. Like, maybe he walked around with like sunglasses, like eye patches on or
blinders or
something,
whatever,
or
yeah.
blinders, or if he worked with blind people to train. But like his movements felt like that's
Like he couldn't actually see.
Yeah, like he couldn't
Yeah.
actually see. Like his movements felt believable, and the way he traced the edges of stuff with the cane and stuff was like.
So the performance there was good enough that my wife questioned me midway through the movie of, this is the second blind martial artist he's played. Is he actually blind? He was like, no. He can see. We'll like put Ip Man on at some
Girl,
point.
you talking about it, man?
I speaking on like the double taps to make sure that everyone's down. Whenever he was doing it, he just like stabbed people.
yeah.
three or
That
four
one.
times. Like,
Stab, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it would again, it'd be a dude on the ground. He'd go, oh, I gotta walk back over here. That's good.
Yeah.
Stick you real quick.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're kind of winding down here. And, obviously this was, I had a lot of fun with this film. I'd definitely go see it again. It's silly. It's a superhero film. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah. They do. John Wick does the full Spider-Man treatment of when he loses his powers, he just falls and bounces off a car.
Yeah.
No big deal. It's like
Yeah.
like this is absolutely a superhero film at this point.
Yes. So, we appreciate you listening to the episode.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you did like what you hear, you can obviously toss us a review wherever you would like. However, we do have a Patreon, and you can get in at the ground floor at $1 or one Spanish doubloon. You can send it to me, unmarked address. I'll send it to you. You just me a
bury
message.
it somewhere and send me the map, and
Give me
I'll
the
come dig
GPS
it up.
coordinates. We'll dig it up. Yeah.
It's like what's that called? Geocaching.
Yeah.
you leave the doubloon somewhere, and I'll geocache it. For $1, you get access to. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's highway robbery what we're doing here. Like, I can't believe we're doing this for $1, guys. The amount of content we're giving out.
We're robbing from ourselves.
It's ridiculous.
I thought that was going
Yeah.
somewhere else. Like, what are you talking about?
We are the highway, and we are robbing ourselves. For $1, you get at least one bonus episode a month, plus access to all the bonus episodes we've already done, which is just a wealth of content.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite bonus episodes, Andrew?
Well, we did mention the Star Wars tier list episode, which was good. We have some other really fun ones like soda rankings, which is
that was an interesting one.
It was very interesting.
I had a very big stomach ache after that.
I did not feel so great after that.
I don't know if it was the Taco Bell because we had to try the Baja Blast, or if it was the 18 sodas we chortled down.
It was absolutely the Buffalo Rock ginger ale going down to fight everything
totally
at the
the
end.
Buffalo Rock.
That would set like a chemical reaction off in my body. Anyways, that's a good episode. Steven, what are some of your favorites?
I mean, Presidential Fight Club.
Oh yeah, we did an episode where we just looked at the portraits of presidents to see, and just based off their portrait alone, could we take them in a fight?
We think we could fight them. We think we'd lose.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, it was. So that does sound like all the time we have this week. And until next time, I'm Andrew.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.